Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. Today is Tuesday. I almost said Monday. Today is Tuesday, April the 6th, and we are starting off this morning with some big news in the Birmingham region, really in central Alabama, and that is the news that the Birmingham City Council this morning passed a mask order. The reason this is important is because the statewide mask order, which has been in effect from Governor Kay Ivey since last summer, actually, that order is going to expire on Friday. Now, we know a lot of people have mixed feelings about this, but Birmingham City Council went ahead this morning, passed a vote to require a mask in the city limits of Birmingham through May the 24th. Our reporter, Greg Garrison, was covering that city council meeting. He is here to tell us the details of that order and what was said at the council meeting. So, Greg, thanks for joining us. Let's just go ahead and get kind of to the meat of this, and that is, what does this mask order say?
It basically says the same thing that the state mask order says, and the same thing that the Birmingham order last year before the state order said. They actually got in early on it last year, May the 1st. They passed an ordinance before I believe the state order was put into effect. So Birmingham prides itself on being kind of early on this and setting the tone to be extra cautious. And that's the note that they sounded today. All the council members spoke up about this, saying they wanted to make sure that Birmingham was kind of an oasis in the wild, wild west. The only council person who spoke against it was Hunter Williams, chairman of the Public Safety Committee. And he also voted against it last year in May and June when they extended it through May 1st through July the 3rd. He was opposed to it. He brought up a couple of things that he just doesn't think it's good common sense to require people to wear masks walking around out in the open air and at sporting events and so forth. Also, he brought up the issue of businesses have to enforce it themselves. Mayor Woodfin spoke in favor of it and said that Birmingham police are not going to be going around enforcing this, that they'll only answer calls if a business says somebody's trespassing or fighting or causing a disturbance.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking through some of the comments coming in here, and it seems like a lot of people are saying that that's good that they passed it. Again, we know this mask order, whether or not it goes into effect immediately, we believe it does, but it is mainly important for on Friday, April the 9th, when that statewide mask order expires. We know, I believe it was last month, the governor said she would not be extending that mask order. She gave no leeway really in that answer, saying that mask order would expire on April the 9th and she would not renew it. So Birmingham, as far as we know, and we could be wrong, but as far as we know, they are the first city in the state to pass their own mask order that's going to continue past the governor's on Friday. We do know Decatur is voting on a similar mandate tomorrow. We should have that news tomorrow. But Greg, you made an important point, and that was, I'm looking at my notes here, that Birmingham police are not going to actively enforce this rule. We know that Councilor Williams was, I believe you said, the lone councilor to vote against the mask order. And a point that Councilor Williams made was that it's getting warm air. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but the air is warming up. People are going to be doing things outside in the open air while the weather starts getting nicer. So one of his points was that he didn't think it made sense to require people to wear masks when they are outside. So is there anything in this order? We're going to talk about police in a minute, but first of all, do people have to wear masks when they are sitting outside at an event, maybe at a restaurant or any of those other locations?
Yeah, of course, it resembles the state mask mandate in a lot of ways. For example, if you're eating in a restaurant, obviously you can take your mask off when you eat or drink. It was mentioned in the meeting today that if you were in church and you were going to take communion, that obviously you can remove the mask and take communion. So in practical effect, if you're going out to a restaurant, you mainly need to have the mask going in and out of the restaurant once you're seated at a table and begin to eat. It's okay to pull your mask down. So it's basically the same that we've seen with these other mask mandates.
Got it. And this one, again, it's going to expire on May the 24th. Now, something that I thought was interesting you mentioned in your story, Greg, and I'm looking at my notes here to make sure I get that date right, is you said that the council has until May the 18th to evaluate whether that mandate should be extended or not. So basically, as far as we know, in the city limits of Birmingham, there will be a mask order at least until the 24th. That could be extended, but that 24th is the deadline for now, but it could change.
Yeah, I think that they seemed open to just extending it a little bit past the state mandate, just for comfort's sake, because Mayor Woodfin, who of course was hospitalized in January for COVID, he wanted to make sure that the city do everything it could to make sure we're past the worst of the virus. He mentioned that vaccinations have not been as thorough in the city of Birmingham as he would have hoped. And so I think they're just buying a little time by extending the mask order to May 24th.
Looking through some of these comments, and there are several people who say, well, good luck enforcing it. And Greg, I know we mentioned that a minute ago, but the Birmingham Police Department is not going to actively enforce this mandate. They, according to that council meeting you were at, they said that the Birmingham police will only intervene if there is a business that reports an issue, maybe with a person who refuses to wear a mask and the business is asking them to do it, or any other issue such as that. Greg, I think there are people that would probably say, well, what's the point of putting in a mask order if businesses as a business have the opportunity to have their own mask requirements in that store? We know a lot of big box stores are going to continue requiring masks in their store past April the 9th, that Friday deadline from the governor. So what is the council's argument as to why the mask mandate matters if businesses can make their own decisions?
It gives businesses some extra cover. Woodfin said that some businesses had specifically requested of him that they extend the mask mandate because it makes it easier for them to stop people at the door and say, look, our business requires you to wear a mask if you come in here. They've got the city backing them up on that. Whereas if it were just their individual policy, it wouldn't carry as much weight. So they really wanted the city to be behind them and back them up in them requiring masks to enter their places of business. But as we said, it's all on the management of the business. So, for example, if a business wants to be more lenient, they could be. If they want to be strict and stop you at the door, they can be. And if you were belligerent, they could call the police, and that's the only case where the police would get involved.
That's interesting. I'm looking through, again, some of these comments, and there was a comment, it went up on my screen. I think it's from Anne. She said that she thought the governor said the order ends April the 9th and there would be no other extensions. And you are right. Governor Kay Ivey did say that her statewide mask ordinance would end on April the 9th and she would not extend it. You're absolutely right, Anne. This is a order from the city of Birmingham. So it is not brought down from the state. It is a local mandate for the city limits of Birmingham. I know we've got a lot of people questioning the legality of that. Greg, was that brought up at all during the city council meeting?
No, it's the legality is pretty firmly established. In fact, they already had one last year before the state mandate. So it's clear that they're legally able to do this. It's strictly up to the municipality if they want to go this route. So it'll be interesting to see if other cities do this or if they simply use this Friday as a good out date and go along with the state and say, okay, we're done with masks. A lot of people are just hoping that the vaccination rate gets up high enough to where we won't have to worry about the hospitalization and death numbers as much.
Interesting comment here from Ashley. And she says, this is deadline after deadline. Why not just say indefinite? Interesting comment from Ashley. We do know that this Birmingham city limit mask order expires on May the 24th. And Greg, you reported that the council has until May the 18th, looking at my notes, to decide whether that order will continue or whether it will go out of effect on that May 24th. We know that I think you said Councilor Williams was the lone person to vote against it today. what do we know regarding the last mask mandate? Who voted for and against it? Just so we can get maybe an idea of which counselors are supporting this.
It was the same. It was the same vote as it was today. Last year when they had the mask order that started on May the 1st, and then they came back and extended that through July 3rd. And of course, they didn't have to take any action since last July because the state had come into play with its mask mandate. So the city is basically had the same stance. All the council members who were for it last year were for it today. The same with the mayor.
Looking through these comments and just really interesting back and forth here. But got a question from Kendall, and she says, is this just Birmingham or surrounding counties as well? Kendall, this is just the city of Birmingham. So Birmingham is located in Jefferson County, and of the 32 municipalities in Jefferson County, Birmingham is the only one so far to enact a mask order. As of our knowledge, this could be wrong. There are a lot of small towns in Alabama, but from what we know, Birmingham is the only or the first to have a mask order that's going to extend past the state order on Friday. We do know the city of Decatur is voting on a similar mandate tomorrow. We'll have that information for you tomorrow on AL.com. But as of right now, Birmingham's the only one, and especially the only one in Jefferson County. So it's not for the whole county. It's just for those city limits of Birmingham. Now, Greg, let me ask you, if you are a person who maybe lives on a city that borders Birmingham, let's say you live in a Homewood, and you say, I would love to go to dinner, let's say at the Pizzitz Food Hall or at 5 Point Oyster House. I'm just naming some places I like. You go down, and because you don't live in Birmingham, does that mean you still have to wear a mask when you enter the city limits?
Yeah, it just applies when you're in Birmingham. It was brought up in the discussion whether this would be a disadvantage to Birmingham businesses, and some of the council members argued that it would be an advantage. That people might feel safer going to restaurants in the city limits of Birmingham because of the mask mandate, and that there would be stricter enforcement. And, it was mentioned by council member Darrell O'Quinn that he used the phrase being an oasis in the Wild West, that the idea that Birmingham would be kind of a safe haven with stricter rules and people might feel safer. And so several council members brought up that they thought it would actually help businesses.
I actually have somebody, I believe it was Phil, who said that I believe he lives in Shelby County, and he said he supported this and he would rather go shop or eat in Birmingham than he would somewhere in Shelby County, maybe that doesn't have that mandate. Interesting to see if other people feel the same way. I have an interesting comment here from Betty, and this is a comment more in the question, but I want to get your take, Greg. She says a lot of people cannot get their shots yet, and maybe they want their shots, but they can't get in line. We know that has been an issue, and that's conversation for maybe a different day. But she says a lot of people can't get the shots even if they want them, and this should stay in place until those people are able to get their shots. Greg, I know the mayor, I believe, made a comment kind of to that effect. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, he did. He believes that the city of Birmingham and population of Birmingham has not made enough progress towards vaccination. Yesterday I was over at Christ Health Center in Woodlawn with Congresswoman Terry Sewell. She was pointing out that health center and a lot of other community health centers in her district are making an effort to make sure that underserved communities get a chance to have the vaccine. And so it's still an issue. Are people getting the vaccine that want to get it? We know some people may just choose not to get it, and you're not going to be able to convince them otherwise. But there are a lot of people out there who want the vaccine, may not know how to get signed up for an appointment. But there are community health centers that have vaccines available. Now you see CVS, Winn-Dixie, a lot of pharmacies and supermarkets are carrying vaccines. A lot of local pharmacies are getting the vaccine now. So I think they're just buying some time by extending a mask mandate to May 24th. They think that with that extra month and a half, that we will have made significant progress towards enough vaccinations to be close to a herd immunity and not be as high risk for hospitalization and death from coronavirus.
And if you, I believe it was Betty, if you need that information, we will try to leave that in the comments here. We have a lot of that information on AL.com. I'll try to find the best link for you and leave it in the comments here if you or somebody you know is trying to get their vaccine and need help. There's an interesting question here as well from Eva. Eva says, talks about the enforcement and says, is there a penalty? So Eva, at the moment in the council meeting, it was said that Birmingham police will not actively enforce this mask mandate. They will only enforce if they are called for disturbance or otherwise by a business. But I do not believe fines were mentioned. Greg, were fines mentioned at all?
They weren't mentioned. I don't think you would be fined. I think you could be, but more likely the scenario would be if you were belligerent and the police were called, you would probably be charged with something like trespassing or disturbance of the peace more than anything related to not wearing the mask.
It is honestly, I have a comment here and it went up, so I can't see the name, but somebody said they are very surprised at how hostile the argument between masks has gotten and the tension there. And I think we can probably all agree with that comment there. So Greg, thank you so much for coming to explain this to us. I know you've got a story on AL.com about this order and about the city council meeting. We've left that in the comment thread. If you want to click on that, get more information. I know Greg is going to be keeping us updated on the situation. So Greg, thank you for all of your knowledge and for kind of explaining that meeting to those of us that did not attend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Everybody watching, thank you so much. Please stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow.